Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Wednesday night, getting ready for the NFC Championship. And this is going to be the same drill as every week. We are going to look at the opposing offense of the 49ers, Jalen Hurts being the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And we'll be discussing how that matches up against the 49ers defense. And this is the matchup to end all matchups in the NFC. Philadelphia doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses on that offense. And Jalen Hurts can move a little bit. He's been having a good year through the air, on the ground. Obviously was hurt with the shoulder injury down the stretch run, but is back now for Philadelphia. And the 49ers are ready to be tested by a top 5 offense in this game. Philadelphia, number 1 in run DVOA. That includes what Jalen Hurts has been able to scramble for on the ground. He had 10 runs, 82 yards against the 49ers in that week 2 loss last year. And Jalen Hurts obviously has been throwing the ball effectively, especially with another premier weapon in tow this year in A.J. Brown. The pass DVOA is at number 6 for this Philadelphia offense. So we're going to be taking a look at all of this. You can check out the preview roundtable. Look at that nice graphic that we have up on the Athletic. That looks good up on the screen here. That's Jalen Hurts. That's Brock Purdy. That is the NFC Championship roundtable, how the Eagles or 49ers can reach the next Super Bowl, which is LVII. My Roman numeral reading tells me that's Super Bowl 57. The L is 50, the V is 5, and then the 2 I's are 1 + 1. So how either the Eagles or the 49ers can reach Super Bowl 57. If you want to check that out on The Athletic, I will copy that. I will paste it. I'm going to put it into the comment section. Obviously, today has been dominated by a little something else for me, at least, on The Athletic, and that was this right here. John Lynch making it down from the suite to the field in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Well, I beat John Lynch. I made it in 2 minutes and 3 seconds. If you don't believe me, I'm serious right here. Over at Levi's Stadium, down through the elevator to the field. The video is out there, and you can go watch it. I'm going to spoil it for you, but check out the whole thing at Levi's Stadium. A lot of people were wondering if John Lynch was Batman. The answer is no, he's not Batman. John Lynch just has express elevators heading down in Levi's Stadium from the press box down to the field. All right, so I'm going to get Jalen Hurts back up on the screen because that is better than watching me try to recreate John Lynch. If you guys need to see the whole Lynch thing, then go ahead and check it out on YouTube. Check it out on The Athletic. It's there. Jalen Hurts against the 49ers defense, though. That is the topic of the hour. Man, they did a nice job with that graphic. Check it out. Hurts, dual threat. But, the main thing is that the Eagles have a lot of weapons. This is, one way to illustrate it. Dallas last week had Tony Pollard. They had CeeDee Lamb. They had Dalton Schultz. They really only had one legitimate threat at each level. But at the receiving level for the Philadelphia Eagles, they have 2 big-time 90-catch guys. A.J. Brown was 88, but Devontae Smith was 95, so they averaged 90 between them. It's not just CeeDee Lamb. Last week, it was just CeeDee Lamb that the 49ers had to deal with. This week, they have to deal with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And on top of that, well, you also have to account for Dallas Goedert and obviously Miles Sanders coming out of the backfield with a 4-figure kind of season in the yardage department. I haven't even gotten to some of the auxiliary weapons, like guys like Quez Watkins, who had a big 91-yard gain against the 49ers last year. So Philadelphia's got weapons. They've got more weapons than Dallas. They're a little bit better than Dallas. This is, I think, the clear number 1 against number 2 matchup in the NFC. Who's number 1 and who's number 2? Well, we'll find out on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. But the Eagles have enough weapons, and Jalen Hurts up on your screen can run to the extent that I think that this is really, really important. Jalen Hurts is at his worst against cover 3 defenses. And there's a graphic that we had up here on The Athletic, or no, this was on Twitter today that I have to find. This is splits against different defenses. Let's get this up on the screen and see where Jalen Hurts ranks against different defensive alignments. And then we can go out and we can start discussing how the 49ers might play Jalen Hurts. But different QBs against different defenses. Red is bad. Blue is good in terms of EPA per play. Brock Purdy is worse against cover 4. Defense really just dropping back and playing a little bit of prevent. That's where Brock Purdy isn't good. Off-schedule stuff doesn't work quite as well there. Jalen Hurts, though, interestingly enough, is worst against cover 3 zone. The 49ers don't run nearly as much cover 3 as they used to. Cover 3 is the Seattle-style scheme. Pete Carroll making that with the Legion of Boom. And then obviously Robert Saleh brought it to San Francisco. It's press coverage on the outside, but you play a lot of zone coverage. You will give up some easy gains in hopes of telling an opponent, hey, you've got to take this downfield 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 plays. Ultimately, we will break you over one of those plays. I likened it to probability, right? If there's a 2% probability of a negative play in one chance, well, if you compound that 2% probability over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 plays, well, all of a sudden that 2% is much, much higher than just 2%. That's how Seattle won a Super Bowl in that 2013 season. And that's how the 49ers started playing under Robert Saleh. But under DeMeco Ryans, they've gotten more multiple defensively. But the 49ers still run cover 3 zone 35% of the time, which is the 6th highest rate in the NFL. And just look here on the chart, Jalen Hurts, really positive efficiency across the board, but negative efficiency is on cover 3 is the exception. And I do expect the 49ers to run cover 3 against Jalen Hurts, probably even more than their season average rate, because zone is how you stop a running quarterback. If you're in man coverage, you're going to see what Dak Prescott did to the 49ers last week on that 4th down. Dre Greenlaw's going to get sucked to the outside because he's going to be a man on a running back, somebody like Miles Sanders. And the middle of the field is going to be vacated. Every single one of your cornerbacks is going to have the back to the defense because they're going to be trailing a wide receiver in man. And the QB is going to have a chance to run. And then, you could say, okay, you add a spy. Well, who's your spy going to be? A safety? Then you don't have safety help over the top. It's tough to combat a running quarterback, somebody that could really move with their legs in man coverage. You ideally want a QB, or you want a defense that's looking the QB in the eyes as the QB is going through his progressions. And that's what zone coverage will give you. So cover 3, where Jalen Hurts has struggled this year, not coincidentally because it stopped the running game for him, that's what the 49ers play a whole heck of a lot of. You see that splotch of red? That's Jalen Hurts against cover 3. I think the 49ers play zone in this game. And again, they're going to play a bend but don't break zone. So I'll tell you what, there's a good chance that fans are going to get impatient over the course of this game because Philadelphia is going to be moving the ball. That's the kind of defense that I think the 49ers will play. They're going to give up some of that underneath stuff. But as long as the linebackers are funneling toward the football, as long as the defensive backs are doing their absolute best against that big-time receiving duo of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and you can't forget about guys like Quez Watkins and the rest of this Philadelphia lineup, as long as they are playing contained football, the 49ers will rely on the fact that they lead the league in turnover differential and interceptions, and they'll hope that they're going to get a couple more in this game after obviously finishing on the plus side against the Dallas Cowboys. And for that, we got to talk about the offensive line. 1 through 5, Philadelphia's offensive line, if you cumulatively consider this, is really, really good. Number 2 pass block rating in all of football. Number 1 was Tampa Bay, and Philly would be number 1 if not for some pressure that the left tackle Jordan Mailata has given up. Now, Mailata is a former rugby player. Came out of Australia, rugby player who almost miraculously learned football extremely quickly, got a big payday, came through the International Pathway Program. That's the same program that Alfredo Gutierrez, the 49ers player from Mexico, is playing under. But Mailata, big money guy, overnight sensation. But you look at the Eagles' offensive line, Mailata is the left tackle, Landon Dickerson's the left guard, Jason Kelsey is the center, Isaac Seumalo is the right guard, and Lane Johnson, perennial Pro Bowler, All-Pro, is the right tackle, although he'll be playing a little bit hurt. Everybody on that line except for Mailata is a top 7 pass block efficiency, pass protector. That's factoring in pressures, sacks, all that. Mailata is down there at like number 41 out of 56 tackles in pass protection. He's huge, big-bodied. That's what Nick Bosa said about him. But it's obvious that there is a weakness on this Philadelphia front. Now, people will say, oh, Mailata's just taking all the best edge rushers because nobody wants to work against Lane Johnson, and that's okay, fine. But he's still giving up a lot of pressure. Just like you could say, oh, a lot of great edge rushers are working against Mike McGlinchey instead of Trent Williams. Well, McGlinchey still gives up more pressure than Trent Williams, but McGlinchey's actually above average. He's given up less pressure than the league average at tackle this season. And Jordan Mailata can't say the same thing at left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. So my question is, does Nick Bosa just line up against left tackle and work? Last year, the 49ers overwhelmed the Philadelphia front, but they also had Dee Ford in that game. Healthy Dee Ford, week 2 of last year. Obviously a pipe dream. Dee Ford no longer on this 49ers team. So what do the 49ers do? No Dee Ford, no DeForest Buckner like that in 2019. Charles Omenihu was back at practice today for the 49ers. You have a bookend with him and Nick Bosa. The Omenihu update is the 49ers have decided to keep him on the team. They've done some research of their own, or so they say, into the incident. And based on that, they've decided to keep him. And who, remember, no charges filed, at least as of yet, by the Santa Clara County District Attorney after the arrest on misdemeanor domestic violence suspicion that happened Monday. So Omenihu is back at practice today, and we'll see how that moves forward. But Sansom Ebicom had a sack opposite Nick Bosa in the game on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. That was the only sack the 49ers had. People are trying to say that Bosa's playing poorly. He's not. Bosa's getting a lot of defensive attention. He led the 49ers with 5 pressures. He showed up big time in their game against the Cowboys. It's not about sacks. It's more about pressures. It's more about effectively squeezing the life out of an opposing passing game. And the 49ers did that against Dallas. You cannot argue with the results. And they're going to try to do the same against a better Philadelphia O-line. But I do think there's a weakness at left tackle with Jordan Mailata. If you can at least force the Eagles to give him help, that's a resource they can't use elsewhere. It limits the explosiveness of their offense the same way that the 49ers limit their offensive explosiveness when George Kittle has to help out as essentially an extra swing tackle. So it's going to be fascinating stuff to see where Bosa lines up. We know he's ambidextrous in the pass rushing, but I do think you go after Jordan Mailata. And if you do that successfully, you have an easier time against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And if you do that successfully, well, you have a better chance against Jalen Hurts because you're going to not be overcommitting to some of these receivers. Miles Sanders running the football. If you're not overcommitting, you could play downhill as a defense. And if you play downhill as a defense in the NFL, good things are generally going to happen. I think cover 3 is the key, though, for the 49ers because you keep your eyes on Jalen Hurts. And by keeping your eyes on Jalen Hurts, he's not going to have as easy of a time running. 10 carries, 82 yards against the 49ers last year. But Philly scored only 11 points. So the 49ers definitely won the day last season in the city of brotherly love. All right, let's take some questions about this matchup. Those are the key points. I'm ready for some questions here on Wednesday night. Well, people, it makes sense to talk about how the team was last year because a lot of the players are the same. We can talk about how the Eagles were last year and also acknowledge they've gotten a lot better while using last year as a valuable data point. Why not, right? The Eagles had Jalen Hurts. They had a solid offensive line. The defense, too. I mean, I'll talk about them in another video. They had Quez Watkins on that team, right? He was getting after it last year. I talked about that 91-yard catch. Now, they didn't have A.J. Brown, but we can go out and say A.J. Brown played the 49ers last year with the Titans, and he tore him up. So the 49ers went out and they got Charvarius Ward to face off against some of these alpha receivers, and they're going to have to continue shutting them down in this next game to prevent this from getting dicey. And the Eagles are favored, so I think it's dicey already in that regard. But yeah, we can talk about the teams last year. It's a useful reference point, but we can't get all too carried away with it. The Eagles are better at every level of defense, but linebacker. Are you saying better than the 49ers or better than their version last year? Because this doesn't tell me a whole lot if you're saying the 49ers, because the 49ers linebackers are so otherworldly good that it raises the unit in front of them and the unit behind them. But yes, Philadelphia's weakness is that linebacker position. And I think that's where the 49ers can make some hay in this game through passing mismatches. You look at Philadelphia, they're number 22 DVOA against number 3 and number 4 receivers, and number 24 DVOA against running backs coming out of the backfield. This does feel like a Christian McCaffrey game. The Eagles linebackers aren't very strong. No, that's the weakness of this defense. I don't think they're particularly strong in coverage. So I do think that the 49ers are going to try to pick on TJ Edwards, Kaiser White. I mean, the Eagles are really good at the corner positions. They have Darius Slay. They have James Bradbury, the former Giant. At safety, you got CJ Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, they have all those first-round picks on the offensive line, guys who were playing for the Eagles, and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. Those guys were playing for Philadelphia back when Mike McGlinchey was in high school in Philadelphia. So you got a line, you've got a ball-hawking secondary. Where I think they're a little bit soft is the middle. But we're talking other side of the ball. We're talking Hurts against the 49ers defense, and it's a really good Philadelphia offensive line. I think the main reason why they're favored in this game. That offensive line is really good. But again, we go through the weapons. 49ers have to be able to contain them. I think you have to be able to win that battle up front to set yourself up to play balanced football downhill on the back end. All right, a couple more minutes. We're going to go about a 20-minute show today. A couple more questions. Do we see the 49ers using Jordan Mason more? Well, with McCaffrey and the calf contusion, maybe Mason gets some more carries to keep the running backs more fresh. They just, we're using the top guys on the depth chart last week, and that was Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell with a splash of Deebo Samuel. Mason remains the closer, but you only bring in the closer if the other relievers can't deliver a complete game. That's kind of how it works in baseball, too. This is a good question from Patrick. How important do I think that playoff experience is here? It absolutely is. The 49ers have been there and done that. They've been there. This is going to be their third NFC title game in 4 years. Philadelphia hasn't been to one yet recently. That's a big deal. 49ers have lost on this stage. They've won on this stage, and maybe losing is even more valuable. They're going to be hungry getting back on this stage. So I do think that experience is important to note. It depends on if Bosa rushes against Lane Johnson. Maybe we see him go against Jordan Mailata on the left side, or maybe we see both. But Nick Bosa is the best defensive player in football. I wouldn't doubt him in any circumstance. Lane Johnson also playing hurt a little bit this season. And by the way, guys, I'm answering Eagles offense against 49ers defense. What can we expect from the 49ers 2 corners? Well, it seems that Demo's grabbing a pick a game. He's looking good. He's the hyena. He's competent. Thought Charvarius Ward was good this past week, too. I mean, you have to be good to shut down the Cowboys the way that the 49ers did. So, we can expect them to be taken on to really, really good top right wide receivers for the Philadelphia Eagles in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. It's going to be a big test all across the board for the 49ers. They're underdogs, but this is winnable. The test lies in, can they put it together when it counts on Sunday? Brock felt handcuffed offensively last game. Was the play calling or the pocket collapsing? Both. When the pocket collapses, the play calling has to account for that. So the 49ers were running a nickel and dime attack because the more 5-7 step drops that you have, the more you expose Brock Purdy to getting hit, and you're playing the game on Dallas's terms, right? Dallas loves to rush the passer. You want to go short and you want to pound them. Philadelphia is going to be the same way. Philly's run defense is a lot worse than their pass defense, which sack-wise is better than even the Cowboys. So I think the 49ers did what they had to do last week schematically, and it might be something similar against this Eagles team this week. All right, guys, I'm getting tired. It's going to be a good day to check in a little bit earlier, go through some of the keys of this game in case you just joined. Jalen Hurts against the 49ers defense is the theme of tonight. Hurts is bad against cover 3. I put that up on the screen. When a guy is struggling against cover 3 in this kind of fashion, where he's good everywhere else, well, then you're going to play cover 3 if you're the San Francisco 49ers, right? It only makes sense to go out there and challenge Hurts where he's the worst. And zone coverage is what's going to help the 49ers corral a running quarterback because you keep your eyes on him. But it's a bigger challenge than Dallas because there's 2 of the receivers, the marquee guys, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. It's not just CeeDee Lamb. Dallas Goedert is a good tight end on top of them. So the 49ers will be strained resource-wise, which is why I think it's really important to talk about who's going to line up offensively against Jordan Mailata. Weakest link of this Philly offensive line, still a solid player, but how are the 49ers going to get pressure on the Eagles to make sure that they have the upper hand at the other positions? Because they've got a lot of guys to account for. Going to be interesting. I'm going to come back with the other side of the ball, 49ers offense against the Eagles defense tomorrow. Thanks for all your questions. And everybody, take care. This is going to be fun. We're going to break down this matchup in every which way possible before it happens here in a couple days. All right, bye now. Thanks for joining.